Chapter 6. Now Eliphaz, he has just given the very first speech of his friends to Job. And it's not so much condemning. He's coming against him a little bit, but it's much more an encouragement. And we see this escalation start to arise in their speeches after Job replies. Because Job, he is in just the saddest state that you could ever imagine. So once again, Eliphaz, he leaves off with an encouraging word. Job, if you just repent, come back to God, everything will be all right. But Job answered and said, Oh, that my grief were throughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are swallowed up. We cannot trace, nor must we expect to find, the formal reply of a logical argument. Eliphaz, Job feels, has so misjudged his case that he is neither worthy of a direct reply nor susceptible of one. It is enough for him to reiterate his complaint and long for one who can enter into it. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me, the poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. You see, this is the overriding lesson at the moment in the book of Job. Job expects God to be a certain way. If you're good, be blessed. If you're wicked, you're cursed and are dead. But Job is being cursed. So what's going on? And this is the lesson. Doth the wild ass bray when he hath grass, or loweth the ox over his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? Schulten's commented, Grass and fodder here are a figure of abundance and tranquility, such as the friends of Job enjoyed. They're not being afflicted at this moment, remember? To bray and low refer to expressions of grief and uneasiness. Job therefore compares his friends. This is what he's saying. Job therefore compares his friends with some smartness to a wild ass exulting in its food, and to an ox perfectly satisfied with grateful pasture. He says, look, you all have no problems at all. No wonder you're coming against me. But if you were in my shoes, and this comes up later as well, if you all were in my shoes, you would be completely confused by the situation as well. The things that my soul refused to touch are as my sorrowful meat. He's having to feed on those things in which he used to abhor. Sorrow, sadness. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for, even that it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Now this is devastating language right here. And that God would grant me the thing that I long for, namely death. Then should I yet have comfort. Yea, I would harden myself in sorrow. Let him not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. What is my strength, that I should hope? And what is mine end, that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? And this is simply denoting how Job is flesh and bone. He feels these afflictions. He's not made of stones. He's not made of brass. He's hurt. He's in pain. Is not my help in me, and his wisdom driven quite from me? To him that is afflicted, pity should be showed from his friend, but he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. My brethren have dealt deceitfully as a brook, and as the stream of brooks they pass away. And this is so telling language. Job is coming against his friends right here, and he's basically saying to them, you should show pity to me. But he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty. But it should be, even though he forsaketh the fear of the Almighty, Job is not saying that he has shunned the Almighty. Pulpit commented on this. Job certainly does not mean to admit that he has renounced the fear of God and become an apostate from religion, but only to assert either that even had he done so, his friends ought still to have shown him kindness. But he says that his friends have dealt deceitfully like a brook that is dried up in the desert. Whenever you expected water, now there's nothing. Which are blackish by reason of the ice, and wherein the snow is hid. What time they wax warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. The paths of their way are turned aside, they go to nothing, and perish. The troops of Tamal looked, the companies of Sheba waited for them. They were confounded because they had hoped, that came thither, and were ashamed, for now ye are nothing. Ye see me casting down, and are afraid. Now remember, he's still addressing his friends in all of this. He says, you all come to me. He says, I didn't call for you, I didn't seek you out. And he continues this narrative and says, did I say, bring unto me? Or give a reward for me of your substance? For the things that I lost, have I told you or asked you for money? Have I asked you for anything? Or deliver me from the enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the mighty? Teach me, and I will hold my tongue, and cause me to understand wherein I have erred. How forcible are right words! But what doth your arguing reprove? Do ye imagine to reprove words, and the speeches of one that is desperate, which are as wind? Yea, ye overwhelm the fatherless, and ye dig a pit for your friend. Job is drawing out that in which he sees in his friends, how they're pitiless, merciless. He says, I thought that you all loved me. And he says, here you all show up, and you are ones in whom would overwhelm the fatherless and dig a pit for your friends. And in verse 25, it can get just a little bit confusing. How forcible are right words! But what doth your arguing reprove? Do ye imagine to reprove words in the speeches of one that is desperate, which are as wind? In essence, what Job is saying, better to be honestly and openly rebuked by you than be subject to the secret insinuations which are intended to pass for friendship. Now therefore be content, look upon me, for it is evident unto you if I lie. Return, I pray you, let it not be iniquity. Yea, return again, my righteousness is in it. Is there iniquity in my tongue? Cannot my taste discern perverse things? The verse means, turn, I pray you, let there be no injustice. Turn again, I say, my cause is righteous. Turn and speak to me now as friends. Chapter 7. Now this is one of the most devastating of the chapters of Job. Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling? As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, and as a hireling looketh forth the reward of his work, so am I made to possess months of vanity, and wearisome nights are appointed to me. And of course, this is self-explanatory. As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, meaning the sun going down, and a hireling looketh for the payment at the end of the day. So does Job look for the end. When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise, and the night be gone? And I am full of tossings to and fro unto the dawning of the day. It's been hard to sleep for him. He can't find rest these days. My flesh is clothed with worms and clods of dust. My skin is broken and become loathsome. Probably denoting his figure at that time, elephantiasis, they believe, having stricken it. Either way, it's these boils. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and are spent without hope. And the weaver's shuttle, now it was different back then, but it's this part right here. A shuttle is a tool designed to neatly and compactly store a holder that carries the thread of the weft yarn while weaving with a loom. Shuttles are thrown, now this is where Job is alluding to, shuttles are thrown or passed back and forth through the shed between the yarn threads of the warp in order to weave in the weft. And what Job is alluding to right here is a monumental lesson, and it's very obvious to the aged. But though each day is a weariness, yet on looking back upon my whole life, it seems to have come and gone in a moment. If you'll notice how whenever you're younger, it seems like getting to 12 and 18 and 20, those seem like an eternity away. But whenever the older that you get, those years just happen, and you're like, well, what happened to all these others? Now in verse 7, Job goes from addressing his friends to speaking directly to the Almighty. Oh, remember that my life is wind. Mine eyes shall no more see good. The eye of him that hath seen me shall see me no more. Speaking of man upon the earth. Thine eyes are upon me, and I am not. As the cloud is consumed and vanisheth away, so he that goeth down to the grave shall come up no more. Job is only looking upon the time of the earth, and we figured this out later on, because what he's meaning is that they'll not rise up until the general resurrection, as he does allude to the resurrection in chapter 19. Now, I want for all of you to really pay close attention to what Job says. This is why I'm saying that these dialogues are fascinating. They really make you think about things that have not entered. This is from a very depressed mind. The man in whom goes into death, he shall no more return to his house, neither shall his place know him any more. Therefore I will not refrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I a sea or a whale, that thou settest a watch over me? Another huge lesson right here. But notice, this has to make you think. I'll no more come back to this house, this one that I'm even in right now. There will come a day whenever I will never come back here, nor will you to yours. Life will change drastically one day. But let us examine this. Am I a sea or a whale that thou settest a watch over me? And he's speaking to God. Ellicott commented on this. Am I like the sea or one of its monsters, like that Leviathan, which thou hast made to take his pastime therein? That thou keepest guard over me? Am I so dangerous, O God? Am I so violent? Am I so threatening? That thou keepest guard over me and makest me thy prisoner continually, shutting me up on every side, so fast in prison that I cannot get free. And the commentators are in agreement with what Job is saying. Job would have God sometimes turn away his eyes from him and not always regard him so intently. When I say, my bed shall comfort me, my couch shall ease my complaint, I'll just go and lie down and take a nap. Then thou scarest me with dreams and terrifiest me through visions, so that my soul chooseth strangling and death rather than my life. I loathe it. I would not live always. Let me alone. For my days are vanity. What is man that thou shouldest magnify him, and that thou shouldest set thine heart upon him, and that thou shouldest visit him every morning and try him every moment? Notice this very stern language. Job even says, let me alone. He's just meaning lighten up a little bit. Let me alone. That is, withdraw thy hand from me. Either, number one, thy supporting hand, which preserves my life and suffer me to die. Or, rather, number two, thy correcting hand, as this phrase seems to more implicate. How long wilt thou not depart from me, nor let me alone till I swallow down my spittle? I have sinned. What shall I do unto thee, O thou preserver of men? Why hast thou set me as a mark against thee, so that I am a burden to myself? And why dost thou not pardon my transgression, and take away mine iniquity? For now shall I sleep in the dust, and thou shalt seek me in the morning, but I shall not be. In Job's belief, sin was the origin of all disaster, and so he thinks that if he were but pardoned, his sorrows would pass away. Now you and I know that we are granted a peace from Christ. We are granted peace from God, but it's a peace not of this world. You can still be under heavy afflictions in the world, yet have a type of wholesome hope, a blessed hope. And that is the lesson being taught right here. Chapter 8. Then answered Bildad the Shuhite. Now this is the second friend, believed to be the second oldest among them, which is why he's allowed to speak. How long wilt thou speak these things? And how long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Doth God pervert judgment? Or doth the Almighty pervert justice? Now we're seeing a great escalation in their angry reproofs. Why dost thou persist to talk in this manner, basically? Why dost thou persist? And why are thy words thus vehement, as a strong wind which overturns all things without any moderation and suffers nothing else to be heard? So thy boisterous and violent words will not permit the voice of truth and wisdom to be heard. Job, you're hard-headed. Like a wind, you're just blowing aside all of these lessons that we're trying to teach you. Now does Bildad step into territory that would really anger any and all parents. If thy children have sinned against him, and he have cast them away for their transgression, if thou wouldest seek unto God betimes, denoting speed, haste, if you would quickly call out to God, and make thy supplication to the Almighty, if thou wert pure and upright, Surely now he would awake for thee, and make the habitation of thy righteousness prosperous. Once again, there's this allusion to Job's children and their transgressions. It was known that they were partiers and all of this. Very eggshell-like ground to walk upon. Though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase, saying, if you just repent, Job, of this secret sin that you have, then your blessings would come back. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. And look back at the ancients. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. And this kind of wisdom, for we know nothing, we're just like shadows, dust, and wind. Men have had an awareness of this from the very beginning. Socrates, he alluded to this, as did Isaac Newton. One of the greatest minds of our modern day, Isaac Newton, once said of himself, it's reported, I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore whenever he began, his study of gravity, the Principia, all of these mighty scientific works that still astound the minds of today. I seem to have been only like a boy playing on the seashore, whilst the great ocean of truth lay all undiscovered before me. But also notice the quite repeated phrase in Scripture right here, because our days upon earth are a shadow. And the Apostle James, he also says, for what is thy life? It is as a vapor. And what is meant by this? It's very surreal what they're saying, but it's very simple to understand. Our days upon earth are a shadow. So brief is what is meant. So brief and fleeting that they can scarcely be called a reality. It's like this time doesn't even exist in the overall scope of things, my friends. This is the reason why I tell people, don't fear death. We're stepping into the start of our real existence. It's quite amazing how inverted that our minds are. We see death as an end whenever it's truly a door to the beginning of all things, and that's how inverted that our minds are. Shall not they teach thee, these ancients, and tell thee and utter words out of their heart? And what that is meaning is out of experience, not out of hearsay, not out of something that they've read. They've lived through this, and that's how you can trust their words more effectively. Can the rush grow up without mire? They believe that this is a type of plant being alluded to right here, and a very good lesson. Can that grow up? And it's this papyrus plant that they believed in Egypt that's alluded along the Nile. Can the flag grow without water? Whilst it is yet in his greenness and not cut down, it withereth before any other herb. And these plants were known for growing up and dying in a day. So are the paths of all that forget God, and the hypocrite's hope shall perish, whose hope shall be cut off, and whose trust shall be a spider's web. Now listen to this. The hope of those in whom forget God, whose trust shall be a spider's web. He shall lean upon his house, but it shall not stand. He shall hold it fast, but it shall not endure. So what's meant by this? Whose trust shall be a spider's web, which though it be formed with great art and industry, like a spider would make its web. You've seen these very beautiful patterns that these spiders make. Though it be formed with great art and industry, and may do much mischief to others like the wicked, yet is most slender and feeble, and easily swept down or pulled in pieces, and unable to defend the spider that made it. He is green before the sun, and his branch shooteth forth in his garden. His roots are wrapped about the heap, and seeth the place of stones. He's very much alive in his place. But if he destroy him from his place, if the Lord sweeps these away, these wicked, then it shall deny him, even the place itself, saying, I have not seen thee. Behold, this is the joy of his way, the wicked's way. This is their only joy. And out of the earth shall others grow. Behold, God will not cast away a perfect man, neither will he help the evildoers, till he fill thy mouth with laughing and thy lips with rejoicing. And wouldn't it be so depressing that the only joy that one ever experiences is just this little short life on earth? Well, that's the joy of the wicked. They that hate thee shall be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked shall come to naught.